Welcome to WiredToHunt's Unconventional Wisdom, where we take one commonly held deer hunting belief and examine an unexpected alternative.
When you hear a lot of whitetail experts or upper level hunters talk, it almost always falls back to access at some point. How do you access your tree stands? What are your access routes like? That's because it's so important. But one thing that we don't mention is you could actually benefit from not having just one good access route, but two. I've run across this quite a few times in my life for a variety of different reasons, and there are several ways to think about this, but instead of just looking at all of your stand sites or where you have your blinds, it's like, okay, I go in here, I attack this trail, I come out the same trail. Think about how you could keep the deer in the dark on your comings and goings by having at least two access routes. The main benefit to this is to give yourself some more options. There are times when I want to come in from the bottom here through the woods versus coming in on the top of this field. What those spots typically look like would be some kind of season-long funnel or pinch point or just a hub. One of the things that I really like to find in the late winter, the early spring, is a place with a whole bunch of scrapes. I always kind of think I'm probably in a hub here, and I start looking around. The reason that those scrapes are there, which are a communication device, is because lots of deer are filtering through there, right? And so some of those spots are really good in the mornings and they're really good in the evenings. And so the first reason why you might want to have two access routes, if you're in the early season where people say you're not supposed to hunt mornings, but you might have a great spot to hunt mornings, but it might not be the same access you'd want to take through the field to come in the evening. And so I have a lot of stands where if it's close to a field edge, I might come in that way in the afternoon for a hunt, but I might leave out the bottom through the woods if I can figure out a way to arrange a ride or walk around. Or if the spot's good enough and there's activity in the morning or the evening, I might come in through the top for an evening sit and hunt it the next morning and come in from the bottom, because it all depends on where I think the deer are gonna be. I know when I come in the afternoon, they're probably not gonna be out feeding yet, but they are gonna be bedded in the cover. You reverse that in the morning and go, well, I don't want to walk right through the food source in the dark in the morning to go sit, but I can come up through the woods through their bedding area and set up and wait for them to come back. Another reason is just to think about the seasonal timing. Well, on September 15th or whenever your opener is, woods are pretty thick, there's a lot of leaves out, there's not a ton of dry leaves on the ground, so you can make that walk quietly. You're not going to get spotted by any of the deer bedded across the valley and everything's golden. Well, you go a month into the season and the leaves start falling down or you start getting closer to the rut, and now any bucks that might be bedded on that opposite side of the valley, not only are they going to probably hear you better because the leaves are down, but they might be able to just look across there and see you now when they couldn't have seen you a month ago. So maybe coming in a different way through a bottom or something will help you, not necessarily on that September hunt, but maybe on that hunt around Halloween. One of the things that I love to have access to get to my stands is a standing cornfield. I use standing corn a lot. I can get through a standing cornfield and probably not spook deer, but on normal years, that standing corn is going to get picked at some point before the rut. And so while that might have been a great option on October 1st, by October 30th or November 5th, that standing corn's gone, that access route is wide open and exposed. And that means that I needed to figure out another way to get in there, or another way to get out so I don't spook those deer and I can preserve as much natural movement around my tree stands as possible. One of the biggest problems we have with access is we think, okay, this is the nice, quiet, hard to see way to get in there, but where's your wind blowing? We always think of it in the perspective of, when I get on that stand, it's going to be blowing out of the northwest and it's perfect for that stand. Well, what if it's not so perfect through a third of a mile of woods to get here, and that wind that's perfect for your stand and your destination is not so great for that route to go in? It's going to be blowing through the bedding areas. And so sometimes having two access routes just boils down to, hey, the wind's perfect for my stand, but not perfect for my typical access route. So there's a lot of different variables that come into play here, but the overall goal of this, of considering, should I have two access routes to my stands, or at least certain stands, is how can you keep those deer from knowing you're coming and going to those spots as much as possible? Now, you're gonna get busted some, but the more you plan out these routes and you anticipate those changing conditions, the more you'll keep them in the dark longer and have better hunts on those stands that you hunt more than one time. If you want more whitetail hunting advice, please listen to the Wired to Hunt podcast and the Wired to Hunt Foundations podcast, and we'll give you everything you needed to hear about deer.